I'm staring at the most beautiful wedding cake I've ever seen, and my hands are trembling like autumn leaves in a storm. Not because of its intricate sugar flowers that look so real I could swear they're breathing, or the way the golden afternoon light catches every delicate detail, but because I recognize something that makes my blood run cold. There's a signature at the bottom of the invoice. Emma's Sweet Dreams Bakery. My daughter's bakery. The same one I called a pathetic failure 6 months ago. The same business I told her was an embarrassment to our family name. The same daughter I banned from my wedding because I was ashamed. Ashamed of her dreams, her passion, her beautiful heart that I crushed with my bare hands. The irony tastes more bitter than burnt coffee mixed with regret. Here I am, 3 days before my anniversary celebration, holding the invoice for an $800 custom cake from the business I tried to destroy with my words. She doesn't know it's for me. The order was placed under my wife's maiden name, and I specifically chose a bakery across town to avoid any complications. But fate has a twisted sense of humor, doesn't it? And now, I'm about to face the consequences of the worst decision I've ever made. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began, back when I thought I knew what success looked like. 2 years ago, I was a recently divorced man in my 50s, trying to rebuild my life from the ashes of a 20-year marriage. My daughter Emma had just graduated from culinary school with dreams bigger than her bank account, and a heart full of hope that I was about to systematically destroy. She was 25 then, passionate about baking since she was 7 years old, and absolutely convinced she could make it as a professional baker. I should have been proud. Instead, I was terrified. Terrified that she was making the same impractical choices that I believed had contributed to my divorce. You see, I'd spent 30 years climbing the corporate ladder in finance, building a reputation that opened doors and commanded respect. Success in my world meant stability, prestige, a corner office with a view of the city skyline. When Emma announced she was using her grandmother's $15,000 inheritance to open a small bakery, I felt like she was throwing her life away on a childish fantasy. "Dad, I want to create something beautiful," she'd said, her eyes sparkling with the kind of hope I'd forgotten existed. "I want to make people happy with my desserts. I want to build something that matters." "Happiness doesn't pay the bills, Emma," I'd replied coldly, crushing her enthusiasm like stepping on a flower. "You need a real career, something stable. The restaurant industry has a 90% failure rate." But she was stubborn, got that trait from me, I suppose. She found a tiny, run-down space in an older part of town, spent months renovating it herself with YouTube tutorials and sheer determination. I watched her pour every ounce of energy into that place, working 18-hour days, learning business management through trial and error, sleeping on a mattress in the back room to save money on rent. The first few months were brutal. She barely broke even, lived on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches, and called me crying more nights than I care to remember. Each tear felt like validation of my warnings, proof that I'd been right all along about her unrealistic dreams. Then I met Patricia at a corporate networking event, and everything changed. Not for the better. She was elegant, sophisticated, polished in ways that impressed my colleagues and fed my ego. Patricia worked in marketing for a luxury hotel chain, moved in circles where image mattered more than substance, where success was measured by brand, names and social status. When I introduced her to Emma 6 months into our relationship, I could see the judgment in Patricia's perfectly manicured eyes. She looked around Emma's small bakery like she was touring a crime scene, her nose slightly wrinkled at the flour-dusted surfaces and mismatched furniture that Emma had lovingly restored. "Oh, how quaint," Patricia had said when Emma excitedly showed us photos of her latest cake designs, her voice dripping with condescension. "I suppose everyone needs a hobby to keep them busy." That word, hobby, stuck in my throat like poison. I started seeing Emma's bakery through Patricia's eyes. Small, struggling, embarrassing. The pride I should have felt watching my daughter chase her dreams slowly transformed into shame. I began making excuses to avoid visiting her, stopped mentioning her business to friends and colleagues. When Patricia and I got engaged after a whirlwind 8-month courtship, the pressure to present the right image became overwhelming. Every decision had to reflect our new status as a power couple. Our engagement party was at the country club. Our wedding venue was the most exclusive in the city. Everything had to be perfect, prestigious, impressive. We should use Delacroix patisserie for the wedding cake, Patricia suggested one evening over wine and takeout from an expensive restaurant. They're the best in the city, very exclusive. All the society weddings use them. I agreed immediately, not even thinking about Emma. But my daughter had other ideas that would soon shatter what remained of our relationship. "Dad, I'd love to make your wedding cake," she'd said during one of our increasingly rare dinners, her voice full of excitement and hope. "I've been working on some new techniques, and I could create something really special for you and Patricia. It would mean the world to me." Before going to the next story, we have a request. We have a dream to reach 1,000 subscribers, and without your support, it won't be possible. Kindly subscribe to our channel, also like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever said something to a family member that you immediately regretted? How did you handle it? Don't miss out on the last turning point of this story. Now, let's get back to the story. The explosion that destroyed everything happened on a rainy Tuesday evening, 3 weeks before my wedding. Emma had been struggling more than usual. I'd heard through mutual friends that she was behind on rent, that business was slow during the winter months, that she'd been working double shifts at a coffee shop just to keep the lights on. But instead of offering help, instead of being the father she needed, I saw her struggles as proof that I'd been right all along about her foolish dream. She came to my house that evening, soaked from the rain, tears streaming down her face like rivers of desperation. Patricia was there, sitting beside me on our expensive leather couch, like a judge at a tribunal, her presence making everything worse. "Dad, I might have to close the bakery," Emma whispered, her voice breaking with each word. "The landlord is threatening eviction, and I'm 3 months behind on rent. I just need a small loan, just $5,000 to cover rent for 2 more months. I have some big orders coming in for spring weddings, and I know I can turn things around if I just have a little more time." The silence in the room was deafening. I could feel Patricia's disapproval radiating through the space like heat from a furnace. I felt trapped between my daughter's desperate need and my fiancé's obvious disdain. "Emma, maybe this is a sign," I said, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it, colder than the rain outside. "Maybe it's time to accept that this dream isn't working out. Maybe it's time to be realistic about your future." "But Dad, I've worked so hard." "Hard work isn't enough." The words exploded out of me like a dam bursting, releasing months of frustration and embarrassment. "You're running a cheap little cupcake stand that's bleeding money. You're embarrassing yourself, and frankly, you're embarrassing me." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma's face went white, then red, then white again, like she'd been physically slapped. "Embarrassing you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes. Patricia and I are trying to build something respectable here, and having a daughter who can't even keep a bakery afloat doesn't exactly help our image. What am I supposed to tell people when they ask what you do for a living?" The weeks that followed were a blur of wedding preparations and suffocating guilt that followed me like a shadow. I threw myself into work, into planning, into anything that would keep me from thinking about the look on Emma's face when I destroyed her world with my words. Patricia was pleased with how things had turned out. "It's probably for the best," she'd say, while reviewing seating charts and flower arrangements. "Family drama at weddings is so tacky. You don't want people talking about your daughter's failed business instead of celebrating your new beginning." But late at night, when Patricia was asleep beside me in our king-sized bed, I'd stare at the ceiling and remember Emma as a little girl. I remembered how she used to bake cookies with her grandmother every Sunday, how her face would light up when she successfully decorated a cake, how she'd make me taste test every new recipe with the enthusiasm of a scientist making groundbreaking discoveries. I tried calling her twice in those weeks leading up to the wedding. Both times it went straight to voicemail. Her voice on the recording sounded so young, so hopeful. "Hi, you've reached Emma Swee. "Et Dreams Bakery. I can't come to the phone right now, but leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for supporting small business." Each word was like a knife twisting in my chest. I drove by her bakery once, 2 days before the wedding, and saw the "For Lease" sign in the window. The space looked empty, abandoned, like a ghost of broken dreams. My heart sank, but I told myself it was for the best. She was better off without that failed dream. She could find a real job now, something stable and respectable. At least, that's what I kept telling myself as I watched my daughter disappear from my life. The wedding went off without a hitch. Patricia looked stunning, the venue was perfect, and the cake from Delacroix Patisserie was everything she'd wanted, elegant, expensive, and completely soulless. As I cut into that $1,200 masterpiece, I couldn't help but think about the cakes Emma used to make for my birthday, simple but made with love. 3 months after the wedding, I was scrolling through social media during my lunch break when I saw something that made my coffee cup slip from my hands. A local news article with a headline that stopped my heart. "Young Entrepreneur's Bakery becomes city's hottest dessert destination." The photo showed Emma, but not the broken, defeated Emma I'd last seen. This Emma was radiant, confident, standing in front of a beautiful new storefront that looked like something out of a magazine. Emma's Sweet Dreams Bakery was written in elegant gold lettering across pristine windows, and there was a line of customers stretching down the block. My hands shook as I read the article, each word hitting me like a physical blow. After our fight, after I'd destroyed her confidence and crushed her dreams, she'd somehow found the strength to start over. She'd moved across town, found investors who believed in her vision, all completely rebranded and reopened in a space 3 times the size of her original location. The article mentioned her innovative flavor combinations and stunning artistic presentations. There were photos of her creations, wedding cakes that looked like works of art, desserts so beautiful they belonged in museums. The journalist described her as a rising star in the culinary world and an inspiration to young entrepreneurs everywhere. Local food critic James Morrison calls Emma's work transcendent and the future of artisanal baking, the article read. The bakery has a 3-week waiting list for custom orders, and celebrities have been spotted among the regular clientele. I felt sick to my stomach, not because she'd succeeded, but because she'd done it without me. Because I'd been so wrong, so cruel, so blind to her talent and determination. Because I'd chosen my own pride over my daughter's happiness. That's when fate decided to twist the knife even deeper. Patricia announced that evening that she wanted to order a special cake for her company's anniversary party. "I heard about this amazing new bakery from the girls at work," she said, scrolling through her phone. "Emma's Sweet Dreams. Very exclusive, very high-end. Apparently you have to book weeks in advance." The irony was suffocating. I watched my wife, the woman for whom I'd sacrificed my relationship with my daughter, place an order at Emma's bakery, praising the very business I'd called a failure. So here I am, 6 months later, holding this invoice and staring at my daughter's signature through tears I didn't know I was capable of shedding. The cake sitting in my kitchen is more beautiful than anything Delacroix ever created. It's elegant, sophisticated, everything Patricia values. But more than that, it's made with love, talent, and the kind of determination I was too blind to see. I've been carrying this guilt for 6 months now, and it's eating me alive like a cancer. Every success, a story I read about Emma, every photo I see of her thriving business, every compliment Patricia unknowingly gives about her work, it all reminds me of the father I failed to be. Tomorrow I'm going to her bakery. I'm going to walk through those gold-lettered doors, look my daughter in the eye, and apologize for being the worst kind of parent, the kind who destroys their child's dreams in the name of protecting them. I'm going to beg for forgiveness I don't deserve and try to rebuild what I destroyed with my own hands. I don't know if she'll forgive me. I don't know if I deserve it. But I know that success isn't measured in corner offices or prestigious addresses or society weddings. It's measured in the courage to follow your dreams, even when the people who should support you tear you down instead. It's measured in the strength to rebuild after someone you love destroys everything you've worked for. Emma was never the failure. I was. And maybe, just maybe, it's not too late to become the father she deserved all along. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest stories. Like this video if it made you think about the relationships in your own life, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. What would you do if you were in Emma's shoes? Would you forgive a parent who crushed your dreams? Or if you were the father, how would you try to make things right? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else going through a similar situation. Thank you for watching, and remember, it's never too late to choose love over pride. We'll see you in the next story.